Hello guys, I am back from another video, and today we're talking about what if Deku was from Genshin Impact, or reincarnated into Genshin Impact, whatever the two. So, in the last video we talked about how, after Bell wakes up, he would notice that Lumine and also, Amber were basically in the same bed as him. Even though Amber is sort of tolerable now, for Lumine, it's a whole different story, as he would basically wake both of them up, and when Amber notices Lumine, well, she would basically bring out Baron Bunny, and let's just say the entire top part of of her house would just be gone. And a person was basically waiting for them, in this case, a boy with, a man with reddish hair, and tied up into a ponytail with a fine suit and gloves. But when he noticed the explosion, he would look back and just think, "Are you?" But he just ignores it and tells both of them that they should probably probably start to get going, because he wants to talk with them. And apparently this man's name was Mr. Diluc. So, after a while basically talking to him, it turns out that they wanted to talk to him about something important, especially if it comes to Lumine. After Lumine arrives at the, bar that he, basically, works at, or more like, more specifically, literally owns it, after, basically a bit of talking, it turns out that somebody wants to talk to her. In this case, a boy or girl. Izuku would think that it's a girl, but after realizing that it's actually a boy, well, oh boy. Let's just say things are getting a little bit awkward. Apparently, the man's name was, well, his name was Venti. And after meeting him, apparently has a way to basically, defeat, or more like subdue Storm Terror. And apparently they meet the Holy Liar, aka the last, remaining artifact that's supposed to represent Barbados, aka the god of Mondstadt. And after arriving at the church, well, let's just say, Izuku would get a pretty funny surprise. In this case, by Barbara, aka his childhood friend. And after seeing her in a long time, well, she would basically see him and would basically start clinging on to him. Even though for Lumine, which she is sort of having a bit of a crush on him now, but for Amber, oh boy, let's just say she's starting to become full-on yandere. Not really, thankfully, but let's just say another character is going to be the yandere role instead. Yeah, another girl is going to be a yandere in this, what if. Yeah, and you'll probably know who I'm going to pick. Or you guys will pick, at least. So, as Izuku basically, was basically telling her if she has, any idea where the, wait for a second, where the Holy Liar is, apparently it's been stolen. And after realizing that the Fatui was the reason that it was stolen, they would arrive at a little point where a few, members of the Fatui are basically carrying a large crate that is supposedly carrying the Holy Liar. And after defeating them and subduing them, they would basically grab the Holy Liar and give it to Venti. And apparently, a certain Jean was also there as well, and apparently trying to talk, to Diluc. Apparently, Diluc would never want to join back with the, with the Knights of Vonius because of something that happened, which Izuku doesn't really know, but either way, they would basically start going to the point where, well, Venti's going to try and calm down Storm Terror. So, after playing a little bit of her, a little bit of his, Holy Liar, apparently, Devalin would finally show up. And yeah, I'm just gonna call him Devalin from now on, because Storm Terror is starting to become a little bit pretentious. And also, saying it for too long would just start to make me, hurt my throat a little bit. Anyway, so, after meeting up with, Devalin would start to growl at him and even yelling at him. Even though it sounds more like roars than anything else. until a weird looking person that seems to be resembling of, well, just imagine a one of the Hollow Knights or the Hollow Knight, character designs from, Hollow Knight, but except with a floppy collar and bluish. Apparently, he would say to Devalin that, well, they're deceiving him, saying that he's probably just tricking him so he can kill him. And so Devalin would try to leave, and before he leaves, he would start to speak in, a normal-ish tongue, aka, the tongue of this world. Apparently, he would say that after being, after being deceived by his own friend, aka, Venti, aka what he calls Barbados, and basically telling him to get away from him and go fuck off. So, after basically leaving, everybody would start looking at Venti as he would start to explain everything. And we basically left off the episode right there. So, yeah. So, and I'm probably gonna make this a pretty short episode because, assignments, bullshit like that. So, yeah, let's talk about what happens next. So, after arriving back, at the bar, they would start to discuss about Venti's past. So, Venti would start to explain that he was the Archon of the Animo element, aka air or whatever. Basically, he would explain that during the, war between, the other clans and the rebellion, well, he sort of met up with Devalin and basically became friends. But after a while of separation, it turns out that Devalin sort of became this. And after he finally noticed it, he would decide to just become a little bit drunk and, drink all of the worries away. Yeah, as you do. So, after a while of basically talking to Venti about this, Venti would say, I think I know the problem. As I meant Izuku got. Oh no, please no, not this again. Oh god. So, we go back to, Izuku, as Izuku would say this. Then what is it then, Venti? Or should I say Barbados? As he would say this. Just call me Venti. And I think I know the problem. I think it's because of those crystals and that abyssal mage. As everybody would just perk up at that. Abyssal what? As Izuku would say this. Yeah, what the heck is an abyssal mage? And what the heck is this abyssal thing? Or abyss? As he would start to explain, and I'm probably getting this wrong, but apparently they're basically wanting revenge for what they, for what Mondstadt did, or should I say the Archons did, many years ago. So, yeah, after explaining all of that, everybody was just terrified of this new threat. The Abyss Mage and their ability to basically control anybody. Mostly the Hillashirls, which, that's a whole other can of worms if you get what I mean. So, after explaining all of that, Venti would say this, so, I want you to help me, and I think I know the problem. As Belle would say this, not Belle. Oh no, please, not this again. Oh no, it's reverse. So, Izuku would say this, so, what is the problem then? As he would say this, you know those crystals, right? Those crystals that seem to be jutting out of him? As Izuku would say this, do you mean those? As he would say this, yes. I think they might be the problem that's turning Devalin into this. And I know who can basically stop it. As he would start to look at, well, Lumine. As Lumine would say this, wait, me? As he would say this, yeah, remember how you purified that specific crystal there? It seems that you're able to do it. As Izuku would just look at her as he would say this, well, it seems to be quite interesting. And after hearing that, I definitely don't feel like that you're not a normal person. As she would say this, well, yeah, I guess you're right. But still, I guess, but how are we going to find Storm Terror, or should I say Devalin, as he would say this. Well, Devalin usually stays in the cave, but it's currently being guarded by these Ruin Guardians, as Bell would say this. Not Bell. Oh no. I guess we have to start a counter. Oh no. So, we go to Izuku, as Izuku would just basically say this. Guardians? As he would say this, yeah. They're these... Well, let me just show you. As you would basically, draw them, as, Izuku would start to think, wait, those are those fuckers, he would basically think in his mind, as we go to a little flashback. Back before, the whole slaughter of his entire family, he was basically going through going through Mondstadt looking for some treasure. He would find a nearby treasure chest as he would start to grab everything. But when he was about to get everything, well, he would look behind him and see some sort of weird robot, as he would say, what the f... But he would get slammed get slammed as he would basically start to run away from it, as it would shoot out fucking lasers. Yeah, we go to a flashback end, as, Izuku would say this. Those fuckers, he would say in his mind, as Venti would say this. Anyway, I want you to try and stop them, okay? And I will try and defeat them. And you and Lumine will help me as well. As, Izuku would say this. So, I'm gonna be one of your... As he would say this, yeah. You're gonna help me and defeat Valen. Especially you, Lumine. Because of your ability to basically purify that weird energy, or those weird crystals around him. As Izuku would say this. Alright then. Let's go. As everybody would basically stand up as he would start moving out to go towards the Valen's, aka Storm Terror's lair. So, a few minutes later. So, they arrived at Storm Terror's lair, currently being guarded by a few Hilichurls and some Abyssal Mages, which some of them seem to be red and the same color as the, one that he first met. And some of them also seem to be, working in tandem with these bigger versions of, Hilichurls, which, when Izuku saw them, he would think, alright, who gave the Hilichurls steroids? As, after a while of seeing them, Izuku would say this. So, who's gonna be the one that's gonna be taking down them first? As, Jean would say this. I'll take down the Hilichurls and those giant ones. I don't really remember the actual name of those giant ones. If you tell me in the comments, that would be appreciated. As, as for, Daeluke, he would say this. I'll help as well. You'll have to take care of the, the Storm Terror problem with, Venti over there. As you would basically bring up their weapons. As Izuku would think, so is he going to bring up a normal sword, or actually he would start to think, is he like a catalyst user? But when he sees the broadsword, he would think, oh, never mind. As Izuku would basically start running with Lumine and also Venti in tow. As, both Jean and also Daeluke would basically start fighting against the, Hilichurls. As he would bring up his, ult as he scream out, here's retribution! As he would basically summon in a large phoenix out of his, sword, as it causes massive amounts of damage. So, going back with Izuku and also, him, aka, Venti and also Lumine. After a while going through, wait for a second, going through the cave, they would see something weird. And that weird thing is, wait for a second, they would see a large portal, as they would see a few, Abyss Mages basically, chanting. As both Izuku, Lumine, and, Venti would just see it, as Venti would say this. It seems that the Valen's there, inside of that portal. As one of them would say this. Are you... Izuku would basically start to pinch a bridge of his nose as he would think, why am I reincarnated here in the first place? And why the fuck am I here in the first place? And why the fuck am I... As Bell would... Not Bell, I meant Izuku Oh no. As Izuku would just say, oh god. Anyway, as what are we gonna do? As when Izuku said that, well, Venti would basically, just say nonchalantly, let's jump in. Izuku would just look at him as he would say, wait, what? As they would basically jump in as Izuku was dragged in as well. As the, Abyss Mages sees this, well, they would not stop, but unfortunately, the door would close as they would basically, drop into some sort of floating platform. As when, Izuku was basically there with, Lumine and also Venti in tow, they would see the Valens still basically covered in these weird looking red crystals, or purplish to blackish crystals. As one of them would say this, that's a cue, said, Venti. As, Lumine would say this, right, as she would basically grab her, sword, which is somehow the weakest sword in the game, aka, dull sword, which, how? And, like, why not just give her the sword from the beginning? Like, from the intro, but either way, just imagine her just wielding that. As Izuku would basically bring up his large broadsword. As after he grabs it, he would basically get ready as the Valen would scream out like a gigantic ass banshee. As Izuku would say this, alright, let's fight. And so they would basically start to fight the Valen. Izuku would start using slashes of both, just hydro and a bit of, creating ice constructs with the help of his cryo, creating ice pillars to basically, pillar up towards, the Valen. As he would create two water dragons from his, sword, as the sword, or the water dragon specifically, would start to slash at him. The water dragons almost resembling the water dragons from, from not Hashirama Senju. I meant the, Tobirama Senju from Naruto. Like, when he uses his, signature technique. The, water dragon jutsu. So, after shooting out those dragons, they would start to slash at the Valen. The Valen would basically start to scream as, Venti would start to use his, animal powers to start shooting out more blasts of air. AKA Animo. As currently with, with Lumine, thanks to the help of her, I don't really know the actual name as well, but they're basically like wings. So she would basically start grabbing onto, the Valen as she would start, extracting all of the, dark energy from, those weird looking crystals. After doing that, the Valen would start to scream and start to squirm around. As Izuku would say this, I'm not letting you hurt her! After screaming that out, something happens to his sword, as it seems to be infused with animal energy, as one of his, symbols would start to, or one of the designs in his, in his vision, would start to glow into the animal-like-ish color. After doing that, well, Izuku would start shooting out a blast of air, creating two blades of, wind, almost resembling, I think his name was from, what's it called? From Black Clover, where he creates two wind swords. As these wind swords would basically start to stab into the Valen, as the Valen would scream out, as everybody would just look at, Izuku, including, specifically Venti, as Venti would say this. Wait, you're able to use Animo? And how did you use, unless if you're, as, Izuku would say this, I'm not a part of the Fatui, and it's just my vision here. As Izuku would basically, arrive there by his side, as he would show his, vision, as he would say, that's not a normal vision. But either way, we should probably stop, him, aka, the Valen. As they would basically start to help Lumine once again, basically distracting it. With the help of his brand new animal powers, he would start creating more blades of wind. As these wind blades would start stabbing into, him, aka, wait for a second, stabbing into, once again, into the body of the Valen, as the Valen would screaming out, saying that he's basically gonna kill them all. But thanks to Lumine would actually, defeat the Valen by basically extracting the last of the Dark Crystals. After doing that, the Valen would basically start to feel a little bit more less controlled, as he would say this. My friend, what happened? As he would say this, Devalin, you're okay! As Devalin and Venti would start to hug. Or at least somewhat of a hug. I mean, Venti's basically just touching the bridge of his nose. As he would say this. Anyway, we should stop the Bis Mages now. As he would say this. Those bastards! They controlled me! After screaming that out, they would basically start flying on the back of the Valen, as they would basically come out of the portal, and they would basically, see all of the Abyss Mages there. As one of them would say this. Wait, he's no longer in our control! As one of them would say, as all of them would start to scream, as the Valen would start, creating, intense storms of wind, and it would cause all of the, Abyss Mages to basically start flying everywhere. Currently, with Jean and also with a certain, Luke over there, they're currently still, fighting against some of the members of the Abyss Order. But when they saw, Izuku and also, a certain girl, aka, wait for a second, aka Lumine and also Venti there, everybody would start getting on guard, as Venti would say this, don't worry, the Valen is okay, and he's no longer in control. No longer in the control of, the Abyss Order. As, both of them would start to, will basically put down their weapons. But as for the Hilichos now no longer being controlled by the, the Abyss Order, they would start to run away in fear of the gigantic ass fucking dragon. Like a normal person, would obviously do. But technically they're not people. Technically. Yeah, I'm still into that theory about, they're originally, members of, Conria. Or at least I think that's the name of that place. So, after falling down back to the ground thanks to the help of the Valen, they would basically defeat, the, I guess you can say boss, because technically he's a boss in the actual game. So, after doing that, the Valen would basically say goodbye to Venti, aka Barbados, and so they would basically start to leave, knowing that they actually defeated, quote unquote, defeated, and that's a big quote unquote, aka defeated Stormterror, aka the Valen. And so, after, Jean basically reports this to everybody, let's just say everybody would start celebrating, both Lumine and also Izuku as great heroes, considering them as, the greatest of all heroes here. And so they would basically start getting, just imagine like hip hip parade like type shit, basically, but all of the, villagers would basically start to, carry Izuku and also, Lumine, and they would basically throw them up in the air and catch them, basically similar to that. And so everybody is basically currently, happy. But as for Venti is still pretty much flat out drunk until he realizes something. Venti would say, by the way, I want you to bring this back to, he would basically grab the Holy Lyre, as it seems to be, weird. But Izuku would just ignore it, as, Izuku would say this, so you want me to bring it back to the church? As he would say this. Yeah, pretty much. So, after, doing that, they would basically start to leave, as Izuku would basically go back to Amber's home, and, Lumine would also arrive back there with, Paimon, as Paimon is currently pretty much sleepy and full at the same time, and all of them would basically start to sleep in the same bed. Especially if it comes to, Paimon, because Paimon is basically like a little baby at this point, so, Belle would be, not Belle, I meant Izuku. Oh no. Oh no, it's in reverse. So, as, they were basically getting ready to go to sleep, well, Izuku would basically decide to hold, Paimon just like a baby, and would basically go to sleep like that. The next day, as everybody would start to leave, with, Venti to go to the church to basically bring back the Holy Liar, which currently with, a certain, wait for a second, a certain Barbara over there is basically, pretty much happy knowing that, the Holy Liar is safe. As when she's about to, when she's basically gonna bring it to, its, proper place, Venti would basically explain that he sort of broke it and used animal magic, which kind of, shocked them. And apparently, the animal magic is permanent, so not permanent. I meant like, not really stable, so it's probably gonna break in like, a few hours, which let's just say Izuku was literally just like angry at him knowing that. As he would say, "Oh, hold on, I am technically the god of this place," but Izuku would say this. Yeah, but you technically broken a sacred item. As he would say, I'm really sorry, by the way. I'm just really sorry. And so, as, everybody's basically, basically arguing at this point, especially with, Amber after knowing that Venti over there is supposedly, Barbados, aka their god, which kind of confused her. But still, either way, they would basically start to leave. So, when they're basically getting out of the church, somebody kicks, Venti, not really kicks, but like blows a gust of wind at Venti, causing everybody to be in shock, as they would see a few, members of the Tui, but one of them seems to be much more prominent. A woman with a voluptuous figure, and, platinum blonde hair, and, wait for a second, with bluish eyes. She seems to be wearing red, black, and whitish clothing. As she would say this, "You sorry excuse for a god," as when she said that, she would basically kick Venti right in the stomach, which caused everybody to basically go into their battle stances. But a few Fatui members would basically grab, Lumine, as when Izuku saw this, he would say, "Why, you little," as he would basically start to use both his animo and also cryo powers, as he would start to create a big gust of, wind, cold wind to be more precise, as you would start to create, the large water dragon thanks to this. As when everybody saw this, specifically the Fatui members and also, the woman, she would say, "What the? Are you sure you really want to fight me? I'm technically an ambassador, and if you do, we'll just have to start a war." As Izuku would say this, "Bullshit!" But when he was about to, get ready to, shoot out a blast of, the water dragon, somebody would stop him, which was a hammer to the face. As when he was knocked down, he would see a few members of the Tui, specifically System Mages, would basically, start to hold him at, I guess you can say, lantern point, because they're basically holding lanterns. As one of them would say this, "Sorry, we can't let you do that." As one of them would basically, start to, charge up her, electro energy. As one of them specifically, one that's, I think, let me just check. Another one that seems to be more cryo-based, as she would say, "Yeah, but even though you're cute, unfortunately, our boss definitely doesn't want you to get in the way of her and her little revenge." As Izuku would watch in horror as La Senora, aka, the woman, which, La Senora, I'm just gonna call her La Senora for now, or just Senora, because, it's a lot more easier. Anyway, so, Senora would basically start to beat on Venti, as after a while, she would basically grab something from her, Venti. And it seems to be some sort of weird chess piece in the shape of, I think it was, let me just check exactly, which resembled a chess piece, more specifically, the king piece, as she would say this. "You call yourself an Archon, but you're nothing more than a liar. A lazy little," as she would basically get ready to, crack his back, or, basically step on his back once again. Well, she would basically get ready to stop. As she'd say, "You're not worth it." She would basically kick Venti right in the stomach once again, and she would basically use a cryo enhanced punch to basically punch him all the way to a pillar, causing him to be knocked out. When Izuku saw this, he was pretty much pissed off, as Lumine would basically see this, and she would basically have a horrified face, as La Senora would basically look back at Izuku, as she would say this. You certainly are cute, but unfortunately you're technically an enemy. But if you decide to join, I will gladly let you become one of my personal servants. As Izuku would say this. I would rather die! As she would say this. Disappointing. She would say, Alright girls, and you. As they would see the other male there, aka, the other, Fatui agent, as she would say, let's go! Our time here is over. As so, they would basically start to leave, basically pushing back, Izuku, and also Lumine. But the two assistant mages would basically, blow kisses at them, which kind of disgusted Izuku, but still. They would basically go towards, Venti and trying to check if he's okay. He is okay, but not physically. So, after, bringing him back to the infirmary, it turns out that, what La Senora, or the Fatui agent, that basically stole something from him was his gnosis, which he explained was, basically the source of all of his power, and basically, transmitting it all the way to a place known as, I think it was called, basically heaven, but if I'm wrong, just tell me the actual name, because I don't really remember all that much about the lore. And I sort of made this about, I think it was about, 6 months ago, because at the time, I just started getting into Genshin Impact. So, yeah. So, after, basically saying all of this, Izuku would basically, say, so, that's basically all of your power, as he would say this. Not technically. I still have enough power to basically, rival entire countries, but still. That technically sort of boosts my power, but anyway. So, whatever she did, and why is she even doing this? Either... Oh no. She would basically say this, as Izuku would say this. What? As he would say this. It seems that my fellow Archon, the Cryo Archon, seems to have gone rogue. After saying this, Izuku would say this. What do you mean? As he would say this. I don't know how or why is he or she was doing this, but either way, you should probably get ready in case of something happening again, especially if it comes to the Fatui or something. And so they would all agree, and so they would basically start to leave. So after basically leaving, we go back to the tavern that a certain Diluc basically owns, as everybody's still celebrating after the defeat of Storm Terror. As Lumine would basically start to explain the reason why she's here. Apparently, her brother, aka Aether, or at least I think so, or at least that's the name that, Izuku thinks that's the name or the pronunciation of it, or at least, or whatever, you basically get it, as apparently her brother was gone or disappeared, so she's trying to find him. After hearing this, Izuku would say this. So, you want to find your own brother then? As she would say this. Yeah, I want to find him. I just... As she would basically start to clench her fist, as Izuku would say this. Don't worry. I'll help you. After all, you're basically just I guess you can say a friend of mine. So, because you're a friend, I'll gladly help you. He would basically say, as she would say this. Thank you. As she would basically start to feel a little bit red on her cheeks, as she would basically start to, feel a little bit weird by the contact of, of his hand basically on her shoulder, as she would start to think, I think I might be falling in love with him. But how? She would basically start to think, we just met, and she would basically start to, blush even more, as Izuku would say this. Are you okay? As she would say this. Oh, I'm fine. And so, As after a while of basically, talking to some people, including Kaya, apparently there's another country nearby. And apparently the name of that country was called Liwei. Apparently Liwei is actually pretty much, a few, I guess you can say kilometers from, Mondstadt. And apparently they might have an idea where where Lumine's brother is, or at least he thinks so. After hearing this, she would decide to maybe go there, to Liyue, which Izuku was kind of wondering what are the other nations, so he decided to why not join her. So, wait for a second, and so she would decide to go to Liyue, if she can at least. For now, we're gonna be, she's still gonna stay here for now. And as for Izuku, he's been planning on maybe going to the other countries, but his original plan was mostly stealing, but ever since his family's death, he decided to maybe why not, just adventure. And maybe even see the sights, and maybe even have some fun. But, thanks to, Lumine, he decides to also maybe even help her try to find her brother. And so they would decide to go to Liyue. But for now, they're gonna be staying in Mondstadt. For now, at least. So yeah. So, after doing all of that, they would basically arrive back, back at, Amber's house, as Amber is currently, making dinner. Which is her specialty. Which is her, I think it was her roast or something, but either way, after eating, they would basically get ready to go to sleep, as Izuku would basically be in between Amber, Lumine, and Paimon basically sleeping on his chest. Not in that way. I swear to God, if you say that way, I'm gonna literally slap you and probably even tell the FBI or something. I don't know. So, after doing all of that, all of them would basically fall asleep. Izuku's still gonna have a bit of an awkward time, but still he falls asleep. So yeah. So, I hope you liked the video, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!